Hi everybody, my name's Shauna. I'm here today to tell you a story about Jesus. This is one of my favourite stories about Jesus because it's a story from when he was a kid. There's not that many of them, this is the only one. We've got stories about when he was a tiny baby and stories about when he was a grown-up man, but this is about when he was a kid, and I really like this story. The story goes like this. Jesus and his parents were heading off to Jerusalem like they did every year. This was a big deal. The whole village would get together and they'd pack up and they'd head off to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. And everyone would be so excited, and the parents would walk and talk and chat together. The kids would run around and play with their friends, and it would be like a great big holiday. It would be like the entire village went off on a holiday. And it was massive. They had a great time, and they went to Jerusalem, and the streets were buzzing and the city was buzzing, and they went to the temple and they did all of the things that they needed to do. And then they gathered up and went home. And Mary and Joseph walked along and they chatted to their friends, and they thought that Jesus was with some of his friends or with some of the cousins down the way or with someone else in the village coming along. And it was only later when they realised he wasn't with them at all. And like anybody's parents were, Mary and Joseph were mentally anxious and worried and frightened. They couldn't understand where he was. They searched everywhere. They got more and more worried and hurried back to Jerusalem and realised that they must have left him in the city. So off they went, and they looked all over Jerusalem and in the markets and in the streets, and they were absolutely panicking and getting crosser and crosser and more worried, like your parents do when you're lost. And eventually they came upon him in the temple. And he was sitting in the temple, this 12-year-old kid sitting in the temple, talking to all the leaders, to the preachers and the priests and the elders and all these men who were so clever and so smart and so learned. And he was talking to them, and they were asking him questions and he was answering them. And these men were astonished by the answers that he was giving. But Mary and Joseph were not astonished. Mary and Joseph were cross and angry. Why did you do this? Where were you? We were so worried. We didn't know where you were. We were so worried. And Jesus turned around really calmly to them. And he said, but didn't you know this is where I'd be? Didn't you know I'd be in my Father's house? And it doesn't say any more after that. The story doesn't tell us any more. We presume Mary and Joseph gathered Jesus up and brought him home to Nazareth. And on the way back, had a very strict talk with him about, staying with his parents and not getting lost in a big city. But I think in this story, it always makes me think a little bit about the Home Alone movie. You know, the one you see at Christmas? That one. Where the family is so busy getting packed up and ready for their holiday that they leave Kevin behind. They leave the son of the house behind in the bedroom. And it's only later when they realise that he's missing. And I think sometimes what this story sort of talks to me about is not only the importance of staying with your parents when you're out and about, by the way, but actually sometimes in our world, in our lives, we get so busy doing other things that we leave Jesus behind. He gets left behind. And we don't notice until we've moved on a little bit later and we start to look for him, or we start to wonder where he might be. Just like Mary and Joseph, they'd been really busy gathering up and packing and getting ready to go back to Nazareth, and they hadn't realised they'd left Jesus behind. Just like Kevin's family in Home Alone. They'd been really busy getting organised and didn't realise till later that they'd left Kevin behind. And sometimes that happens with us. We get really busy with school, with our friends, with all the stuff that's going on, with homeschooling, with everything, with just the way the world is, and sometimes we leave Jesus behind. And then we worry and we get anxious and we think, I don't know where he is. I don't know how to find him again. I don't know. I can't find him. I'm lost. I'm worried. I'm panicking. Maybe I'm a little bit cross because he's not right here beside me where I want him to be. But what we need to learn from that story, if Mary and Joseph had stopped to think, the last place that they had seen Jesus, the last place that he was in the temple. Jesus was still exactly where they'd left him. He hadn't moved. He hadn't gone away. He hadn't hidden himself in a corner. He was right where they'd left him. And that's true for us as well. When we leave Jesus behind, when we hair off in a panic somewhere else or get so busy and tangled up in our day-to-day lives, we can always find him again. We just need to go right back to where we left him. Whether that's the temple, whether that's your bedroom, whether that's just that place in your mind where you go, Jesus, I'm looking for you. Where are you? He'll be right there where you left him. He's never left you. He's easy to find again.